This is a relay project.
Real Talk starts right now. Here's Ryan Jesperson.
We're grateful to have you here on a very special episode of Real Talk. One day ahead of International Women's Day, we've put out a call to some absolute powerhouses who have agreed to join us in our Real Talk studio in the historic Mercer Warehouse in downtown Edmonton. We're going to pop down to my hometown of Calgary as well to check in with a remarkable individual down there, a professional footballer, a United Nations advocate. I mean, somebody who's just really doing remarkable things down in Calgary. Farkunda Muntaj will join us as we celebrate Powerhouse Women, as we tackle some of the big issues that women around the world are facing today, as we hope we prompt some conversations in your circles, your friend groups, your peer groups, maybe your workplace, as International Women's Day is recognized around the globe. That's coming up in 30 seconds. First, I've got to let you know it is a big day, friends. Check this out. This is one of the very first bottles in production, one of the first bottles off the line from our friends at Hansen Distillery. We've been talking to you about this Minnie Yegs cream liqueur. Well, today is the day it is officially out, and you can either check out the website. Look at that. Just launched at hansendistillery.com. You can shop for it at hansendistillery.com. You can always pop into the distillery, a beautiful location, 174th Street, 111th Avenue. Or, of course, you can keep an eye out for it anywhere you pick up great Alberta spirits. This is real candied milk chocolate, the nostalgia of Easter. And Hansen is paying homage to Edmonton, that Minnie Yegs branding. I absolutely love it. Velvety milk chocolate, crisp vanilla dusted candy shell flavor, all in that silky smooth cream liqueur. It's a limited release, just 2,000 bottles available. And of course, now that they're out, I can promise you these things are going to be gone. So you don't want to get left behind. You can get in touch with the distillery. Check out the contact details at hansendistillery.com. Minnie Yegs is sophisticated, local, and dangerously indulgent. Hansen is proudly local, always original, made right here. What a wonderful morning to say hello to two great friends of the show. Jenny Adams is the founder of the Adams Agency here in the Metro Edmonton region, does a ton of work helping brands and individuals manage their messaging and, of course, make the most of their businesses and amplify their messages. It's nice to have you back here. You've sat anchor for us on several Real Talk roundtables.
I have. Different roundtable today, so I'm excited about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I was noticing you're taking your coffee black right now. I don't know if you had eyes on the Minnie Yegs from Hansen, but feel free to jump in on that
love
if you
Minnie
feel
Yegs.
so inclined.
Okay, thank
when
you.
I pop a bag open, I can't stop. Dr. Shazma Mithani is sitting here going, is he really talking about drinking in the first 10 seconds of this episode?
No, I was thinking that I'm just glad that they make Minnie Eggs, the actual candy, year-round now.
Yeah.
I also
Do they
love
make them year-round
Oh,
now?
yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
this might be dangerous for me to find this out. Shazma, I think most people are aware of who you are, certainly people that listen to this show and definitely people that subscribe to your podcast, the Doc Talk podcast. You guys are doing an amazing job. You and Dr. Sheila, your podcasting partner on medical messaging and positive messaging for men and women, but we'll talk about your women's health messaging in just a moment. Also associate clinical professor at the University of Alberta. Oh, and by the way, an emergency room doctor at the Royal Alexandra Hospital and the Stollery Children's Hospital. It's wonderful to have you here. Thanks for making time for us.
So good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Johnny, how are we looking out at Calgary? Still hanging tight. So we'll look forward to welcoming in Farkunda in just a moment. International Women's Day. I mean, I guess there's a million angles of approach on this one. We take a look at the news cycle. You know, you see Christy Nome, you were just talking about this. We don't have to go there right away.
My teenagers and I were listening in the car. We're like, whoa, okay. Yeah. That was interesting. They're like, wow, you have to be one type of a woman if you get fired on International Women's Day. And then they're like, and then she shot her dog. And they're like, okay, well, that makes sense.
Your boys are learning all the facts
They are.
in interesting order.
Yeah.
Yeah. But when we take a look at politics, when we take a look at policy, when we take a look at healthcare, I mean, obviously there's a lot to think about and a lot for us to jump into today. But when we talk about International Women's Day, Doc, does your head immediately go somewhere? Is there sort of a jumping off point for you for where you set your head and your heart every year?
I think just being able to reflect every year on, I mean, more broadly, how far we've come as women, you know, when we look back like decades and centuries, but then when you look at it more of a micro level, just like reminding ourselves how much more we still need to do to have equity. And like from my brain in the healthcare space, there's still so much inequity in terms of women's access to healthcare, in terms of even just as a professional in health, like how I'm treated compared to my male colleagues. We talk about this a lot, and we like to believe that it's getting better and it's the same, but it's still just not. And so being able to reflect on that and remind myself there's still a lot of work to do for myself in my profession, but also for my patients.
Well said. Jenny, for you, when you hear International Women's Day, what does it mean to you personally in 2026?
Well, similar. I think, I've taken a lot of time to reflect. And I think especially when you're in these leadership roles as women and you're a mother and you're doing all these things, especially at our age, although I think I'm older than you, it's like you have so many things going on, and having days like these are important to just stop and ground yourself. Where am I? What's happening in the world? And actually acknowledge, I bet you don't pay attention to how much you're actually mentoring women and how you're leading and how you're impacting change in just the small things that you do every day. So I hope that everybody listening has a chance to just think about, whether you're driving kids to school or you're, in an ER room, or you're, working with the Alberta Council of Women's Shelters, whatever it happens to be, just the impact that you have on women every day. The little things matter, and that's how we make the change, like the 1 degree of change. But yeah, we certainly have, a long way to go, but also really proud of how far we've come. At the same time, I think that we can say both.
So Sunday, March 8th, that's the day that I think, people will be focusing around the world. And I think for a lot of folks, it will be a personal exercise. They'll be looking within maybe their own family units or their own relationships, their own peer groups, their own professional settings. For a lot of people, in particular, internationally, I think there will be a focus on policies and laws. And I mean, there's such the playing field is not level for women and girls around the world, to say the very least. As a healthcare practitioner, you will interact with people that have been in Canada their entire lives. You'll interact with new Canadians. You'll interact with people whose touchdowns in the healthcare service have been very, very different. You see it all in this context.
Yeah, and that's absolutely right. And I think that the thing for me that stands out is kind of no matter where we come from, there's still, women are just different. So Jenny, to your point, I mean, you talk about how we mentor women growing up and like the people that are around us. But I think that we actually like short sell ourselves on that a little bit, right? So I often talk to my like female professional friends and colleagues about this, where we label all those things as soft skills, right? These things like when it comes to like communication, or when it comes to mentoring, or just like how different of a presence it is as women in these professional spaces. We almost like undersell them and feel as though they're not as important and valuable as like the things that you can put on your CV or your resume. But those things are actually valuable. I mean, like in a patient care space, like there's lots of evidence to show that having a female doctor or having a female nurse actually gets you better care and gets you better outcomes. And I think that we need to start having those conversations too.
Well, I just think like when you text yesterday, do you want to come on the show? I'm like, Ryan is catching me at the day I'm going to have a nervous breakdown because I'm responsible for so many things. And the one thing that I thought today is like, we have to stop putting so much pressure on ourselves. Like on this day, we're helping all the people, we're doing all the things, we're making change, we're raising kids. And I'm like, and actually enough. Like, can someone take over? I'm just going to be real. Like It's hard and it's a lot, And so I just want people to, today to acknowledge, or on the 8th to acknowledge, like you're doing great. You're doing great. We don't have to solve all the problems. We don't have to be the leaders who fix all the things. We're doing it in little bits every single day because the pressure is just immense.
How do you make sure that you're how do you make sure that you're hearing? I'll ask both of you the same question. How do you make sure that you're receiving that message? Like, is that up to you to have positive self-talk, or do you have, are there like the unofficial?
There's like the meditating, there's the subliminal messaging, there's the yoga, there's the I think especially being the age that I am now and the age that my kids are, is that real path to finding, not to get hokey pokey, like we haven't even had any drinks in our coffee yet, but to really finding that inner voice in yourself, right? As we're busy with all of this external stuff, it's having that time to sit with yourself and really truly hear what you're trying to say, and finding that pause and that alone time is so important, I think, in order to be able to recognize where you are and what you're doing, because it's so easy for all of us to be just caught up in all of the things.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that as as my kids get older, as I get older, as I get more busy in like the other, not just the clinical roles, but the leadership roles that I have as well, I realize the importance of just like having to have that alone time of like literally just sitting quietly on my couch and staring out the window and like taking a deliberate moment to slow down. And then also like having reminders from friends like Jenny of, people who are living the same things in different ways, but like, hey, you don't have to do everything.
Yeah.
Even though we like always feel compelled to, because there's so many things, like it's a dumpster fire everywhere. But it's good to just have these reminders to stop and slow down and take care of yourself, because if we don't take care of ourselves, then how are we going to do the things?
Yeah.
And sorry, I'm just taking over your
do
show
it.
because it's International Women's Day.
The best roundtables are when I don't say anything for 20 minutes.
Yeah, like on the flip side, I also think that we should all take the opportunity to talk to the women in our life. Like, for example, you are crushing it. Like, I don't want to get emotional on the show, but I love watching your stories. I'm so grateful for your loud voice, your willingness to call out things that people don't want to talk about, to be a source of, truth in an age of misinformation where we are not allowed in Canada to access the news, through social media. I can find that through you and Jesperson and some really strong people. And to just be like, I'm doing this. You and I have had a coffee to say, you're like, I love being an ER doctor, but I also want to do something else. And look at how you're managing to do it all. So like, congratulations for being so brave.
Thank you.
I love this from Jillian in our live chat powered by Park Power. Jillian says, female doctors are where it's at. And then she's giving you the not even a high five, the high 10 emojis, the double high five, doc. A lot of people here are just talking about, people in their own industries or people in their own circles who are doing a great job. We've got folks here in our live chat that are encouraging both of you, saying both of you are just killing it right now. Do you find that it's important to hear that? Like, are you the type of personality where in particular, we're talking about International Women's Day. This is the framing for this conversation as a woman in your profession and everything else that you're doing. How important is that kind of thing?
I think, hearing that from Jenny, who's someone I look up to, like I feel that right here, I have to say. I think that it's important I feel like there's really still this scarcity mindset when it comes to women occupying space. And I think that continuing to have conversations like this where we can see how easy it is to actually just lift each other up and support each other in the roles that we do is just so important, because I talk about the decades and centuries of how, we have made progress, but at the same time, like we've also been really pushed down over that time and have adopted these roles of, there's only this small slice of pie and only so many women can have this, but like we can all have it. And being able to see amazing women like Jenny and other people around us who have trailblazed and like done amazing things, we can all do these things, and we can, as long as we continue to lift each other up during that, I think.
Yeah, I
know
think
where to go it up,
It's hard, and that's why I wanted to take a moment and say to you and say to all the women that I will over the next couple of days to recognize like just how great you're doing. For me, I'm like, oh my God, I didn't feed my kids dinner once this week, and then the pipes burst and the car did this and this. And then you don't actually recognize the impact you're making on the world, or that, someone looks up to you. Like, you just don't, because it feels like a mess, right? It just feels like a mess.
It does.
So what do you think, Ryan?
Nobody cares about what I think.
No, I do. I want to know what you think about.
And to be serious, like International Women's Day isn't just for women, right? And so I think that's important to point out. And I think, like, I ask myself, I guess, the same questions that I'm asking the two of you. Like, where's your head at? What are you thinking about? What do you think are the top issues? And so, we have conversations within our own household, like to be very personal here, about, what our boys see age 3 and 10 from their dad's relationship with mom or mom's relationship with dad. Not just how are chores around the house allocated, but like, how do we talk about what happens around the house and what's implied or what's not implied, or is there any message? Do you know what I'm saying? In other words, like there was something, the other day where, you make a flippant comment, you don't mean for it to be offensive. I don't think Carrie would mind me dragging this into the public sphere, but when you say something like, so it was a day, we share the duties around the house, but Carrie had made dinner that night. And in our house, we kind of loosely subscribe to like, if you cook, you clean as you go. But if the other person jumps in and helps with the cleaning in the kitchen after, it's totally fine, right? So it's like no hard and fast rules. But we were sitting at the table, and Carrie had made the dinner, and the boys were clearing the table, and then she started clearing the table, and I was kind of hanging out. And I was like, boys, that's so great of you to help your mom, right? Because like in theory, in the moment, by definition, they were helping their mom. But she kind of comes up to me after, like in a healthy, positive way. Yeah. And she was like, hey, like didn't love the idea of like cleaning up after a meal is helping mom, right? She's like, it's helping a family. And I was like, 100% true. So that's like a very small example of something I might think about just on what our boys see about the relationship. Bigger picture, like if you want to talk editorially on this show, things subconsciously through the booking process, ensuring that, generally speaking, we have equitable representation of not just women and men on the show, but all kinds of different parameters or editorial guidelines that we would look at, but something that I want to make sure that I'm aware of. And I think also certain issues that you look at, like I want to pick your brain on health issues. I want to pick your brain on media and public messaging and business issues as well. Like, women, I think oftentimes inherently, maybe you guys disagree with me, I think would see things differently than men. So it's important to get different perspectives.
Obviously, we see things differently than you, which is a good thing, right? I mean, we see things differently than each other do. But going back to, like, I have 2 teenage boys. I have a 16-year-old and a 13-year-old, and I'm separated. So I have them when I have them, and it's constantly on my mind. To your point, Ryan, how can I show them both sides of being a woman? Because what they see is it's what I saw growing up with my mom, who was a single mom and owned a newspaper, and she taught me who I am, is like go, work, do all the things, pay all the bills. Like I am the man and the woman in the relationship. And then I'm like, why aren't you guys getting me a birthday present? Or why on Christmas? Like why? And then I'm like, oh, I have to teach you actually the other side too, which isn't always my first part of my personality, that softer side. Like I want to be both sides of a woman. I want to be the strong, powerful, capable woman, and at the same time I want to have space for soft and inviting and femininity, but it's not always what I lead with. So I'm constantly thinking, okay, how can I teach them? So I did like drop them off with my bank card to get me a birthday present, and they bought me these beautiful earrings, and I'm getting them to write me cards.
Did you give them a budget?
I did. They had $100. I know I made that mistake before when I made him pay for dinner and he gave the guy a 30% tip. I'm like, okay, well, fine. But trying to find those moments to teach them both. Like, how do you treat a woman? I'm teaching them how to treat a woman at the same time that I'm like, I don't really know the answer to that. So,
yeah. And I think we're talking about just having kids. I have a older daughter, younger son, and having kids also like changes the way or shapes the way that you move through the world too in such a different way, right? Like where you're really starting to think about your relationships, how you're presenting yourself in front of them, how the time you're spending with them, even the language that you're using around them. It's interesting to think about things in that way.
In our live chat powered by Park Power, Aaron says we've got to teach our kids how important we all are to each other for sure. Tracy says women's empowerment is so important professionally and personally, if for nothing more than realizing that women are often the caregivers on top of other roles that they're playing. Can I share the very first thing you said when you walked in the door today? It was this is like an insight into the life of an ER doc, and not just an ER doc. I'll remind people you're an ER doc at 2 different hospitals. But
thank you.
Thank you for your service. But what did you say right when you walked in? You said that the morning started off great because you were able to see your kids before they went to school.
Yeah, right. I walked into the sterile. Ryan's like, yeah, how's your morning going? I'm like, well, it's actually pretty good because I got to see my kids this morning. And he's like, oh, are you usually out before they get up? I'm like, no, I'm usually sleeping because I worked the night before, which I wasn't working last night, which was great. But yeah, I got to see both of them this morning before they left the door. So it was good. Good morning.
And in one of Canada's busiest ERs, no less. So, I mean, that's an example. And how about you? Like, we can talk about what you've been doing over the past few weeks, can't we? I mean, you do a ton of different things, but high profile clients.
Like what in particular are you discussing?
Yeah. I'm like, what are you about to reveal?
I know, right.
But the same thing, you work with, you've been responsible, whether we've acknowledged it or not publicly, you've been responsible for some of the higher profile guests, for example, that have appeared on this show. You do a lot of work behind the scenes, helping high profile, celebrities and high achievers, manifest what they need to do in their course of business. It often takes you on the road, but then you've got family obligations at home as well. I mean, it's a thing. Yeah. And thousands or millions of people do it. Millions of women in particular do it, and probably maybe don't applaud themselves or recognize the double duty that they're doing, which is a huge deal.
It is a huge deal. It's a lot. And of course, you always feel like you're failing. But I know, in my role, in our crisis and reputation work that we do, which again, we don't speak a lot about, but when organizations have these major catastrophes, which they do, and every single crazy subject, we've worked on, it's men, it's women, it's boards, and me having to be like, yeah, actually, you really messed that one up. You really screwed that one up. And, having to go toe to toe with these people that are in their, these moments where they're like, this is life or death for themselves or for the organizations. And then be able to, I think men and women are great at this job, but I also think I have that emotional intelligence at the same time, right? There's dealing with the people who made the mistakes and having to say, yeah, you did, that's bad. And then now we have to deal with all of the things and walking them through that at the same time. So I think that emotional intelligence and that ability to read people's, moods and all sorts of things is so key to be able to do the job in which I do. So I think that definitely is one of the benefits to bringing my, female self to the world of crisis and reputation work. And then dealing with, the Brian Baumlers of the world, where I'm just like, oh, please tell me more about your island. Just kidding. I love Brian. I just spent 4 days with him in Calgary. So I'm like, we'll see you in Edmonton in 3 weeks.
This is one of the higher profile home reno guys
on planet
Earth.
Forever.
Right?
Exactly. Forever, ever.
I want to ask you a question about that because I agree. I think that women have this ability to communicate in a very different way and have that EQ that I think we take for granted. Did you always know that you had that ability? Because for me, like in the work that I do, like leadership roles, but also at the patient bedside, I mean, the data shows it, but also like I believe that I can take patients through their journeys in a very different way than my male colleagues can. But it took me a while to see that and to understand that difference.
Yeah, I think, and it goes back to how you were raised. And I was raised in an environment where I was just hyper in tune with everything that was going on all of the time, to a fault. I often say, hey, Mom, I have this great business because of like some of the things that weren't awesome in my childhood. And I had a great childhood. You know what I mean? But I'm so hyper in tune to, if you blink weird or you cough or say, well, I'm going to mention something, I'm like, oh my God, like I'm already 7 steps ahead problem solving the problem to make sure that you actually don't get mad and get upset. So I have known that I have that skill to a fault. I have managed to rein it into something that I've created a business on and can help, people and politicians and organizations and nonprofits understand how people think and feel, and use that to get great outcomes. So for me, it has been a journey as it has been. But yeah, and again, that's just embracing another side. But my, 16-year-old son has the exact same thing. Like he's very empathetic and very in tune with people. So maybe I am rubbing off on him in that way.
Oh, you're definitely. Yeah, no, you guys are both doing an amazing job. I love this from Ruth in our chat. Just says, these are good. Yes, Ruth is here for
Ruth.
This today. I want to get to
Ruth
more in our live chat.
mini eggs.
Yeah, mini eggs. Yeah, Ruth. Well, yeah, she can get it at HansonDistillery.com. We're going to be giving away some bottles, by the way, in the days and weeks to come. We'll let you know about that. Look at that. Johnny's got the label up there. They did such a good job with this. We're hanging out with Dr. Shazma Mithani, Jenny Adams in our Real Talk Roundtable presented by our friends at Mercedes-Benz Edmonton West. More from them and into our live chat in just a second. Dr. Mithani is one of the incredible ER docs at the Royal Alexandra Hospital, and we've been talking to you about the amazing work, the healthcare that has been not just sustained here, but the innovative healthcare, the impact of it growing decade after decade, 125 years, if you can wrap your mind around that. And as the Royal Alex, as it is affectionately called, prepares to level up for the next 125 years, we are encouraging you to show your support. Donors make the difference at the Royal Alexandra Hospital. You can check out the legacy of the hospital, including the lowest whole hospital for women, by visiting royalalex.org. The next time your family is talking about your philanthropy goals, your estate planning, maybe what you're going to do with your tax return, or if you're just feeling generous on International Women's Day, please consider the Royal Alexandra Hospital Foundation at royalalex.org. Our friends at Friesen Brothers have you covered. 16 different locations across the province of Alberta. This is a family-owned business, still 71 years in, and they're always giving you opportunities to get the family together over a great meal. You can do that in store at Friesen Brothers. A couple of events coming up we want to make sure are on your radar, including their Filipino Feast. That's coming up March 7th and 8th at participating locations, $25 all you can eat. You can get the details for this event March 7th and 8th from 4 to 8 p.m. at Edmonton, Glenora, Rabbit Hill, Stony Plain, Hinton Hill, High Prairie, Peace River, Fort Saskatchewan, and a big shout out to our friends in Drumheller as well. Get the details at friesen.com/Filipino Feast. If you and your family will be hoping to go green, maybe it's your business, could be your farming operation, and solar is in the plans for 2026, you're going to want to get yourself on Kubi Energy's install list ASAP. It's filling up fast. Their installers will soon be up on roofs of convention centers, office towers, residential in neighborhoods, of course, and like we said, agricultural applications too. The quote is always free. Why not get their engineers scaling up your project today? Go to kuby.ca. That's KUBY.ca. And for those of you that are set on improving your prospects in the job market, or maybe finally just pursuing that post-secondary journey, there doesn't even have to be an end route. You just know you want to go back to school, but there's been barriers. Your time, you're looking after your parents and your kids at the same time. You're working 2 jobs. Maybe you live remotely. There's a fit for you guaranteed at Canada's Open University. That's Athabasca University. You can find them online today at athabascau.ca. Browse their hundreds of programs and courses. Learn more about financial supports. Check out the AU Advantage today at athabascau.ca. Jenny Adams, Dr. Shazma Mithani hanging out with us in studio in our feature interview presented by Mercedes-Benz Edmonton West. We had 2 other panelists lined up, by the way, and they've just let us know neither of them are going to be able to make it. Late developments in their own days, and it just kind of reiterates to me how much everybody has on their plate. You know what I'm saying? In our live chat, powered by Park Power, we've got a whole bunch of people that are sharing their own thoughts. Neola's in here. She says emotional intelligence is oftentimes used against women as well. She says having taught or instructed police. Interesting, Neola. She says, having taught police for 20 years, I remember walking into many classes hearing, I wonder how long it will take to make her cry. That from Neola in our live chat. You didn't love that comment. No. I don't think she loves it either. Have you encountered through the course of your educational or professional career discrimination or challenges that your male colleagues just simply would not have encountered?
1,000%.
Like all the time?
Like all the time. It's still, and it's like fascinating that they're, and thankfully I have colleagues that actually acknowledge that. Like my male colleagues are so great, and they see how different it is, how I move through a shift versus how they move through a shift, like the number of interruptions, the number of times I have to reintroduce myself to the patient as their doctor, the number of times I go into a room with a male medical student and like they're seen as the doctor and I'm the medical student. I mean, I'm sure I just look that young. That's great. But like it is like a constant navigation, and then has significant impacts on the way that I can efficiently see patients, if you think about it, right? Like every single moment, like every single extra second that I have to spend reintroducing myself, being interrupted that my male colleagues don't, they can see more patients and can be more efficient. And like that is something that continues to happen and then contributes to pay inequities in medicine, even though like the fee schedule is exactly the same. If I'm not seeing as many patients because I'm being interrupted or spending more time with my patients, then that has an impact. Still happens all the time.
How about you in your line of work? Do you experience something similar?
I mean, yeah, I think all women do. I think I probably have this lens on of just like, I'm the same, let's just go. But there have certainly been instances on this show that I've had experiences that I was like, oh, wait a minute, I didn't realize the inequality that exists in the world all the time. And I think sometimes in the subject matter that I'm dealing with, sexual abuse and sexual assault and overdoses and deaths and shelters and all of these things that I'm really brought into a world in which I don't live. I realize I'm extremely privileged, not only for the color of my skin and where I live, but the opportunities that I have every single day and able body and my health. But I am brought in constantly to these, situations where I'm like, whoa, and able to experience a bit of the lens on the other side as well too. And again, trying to make that change. So yeah, I think I think it impacts us all, Ryan. It just impacts us differently, especially in the environment that you're in as well too. Like you're in high stress constantly all the time. Mine's not like that all the time.
Yeah, I mean, like even when I'm just like thinking of examples in a high stress, high acuity situation, like if I'm running a code, running a recess, right? The number of times, like, and I've been working in this emerge for 12 years as an attending, and then like 5 years of residency before that. Everybody knows who I am. They should know that I'm the doctor. But still, there are situations where I'm the one that's standing at the head of the bed and EMS is bringing a patient in. And like literally there's like a taller, younger male med student behind me and they're like talking to him. I'm like, hello, like I'm the one that's here. I've positioned myself. You know who I am. I am the leader of this team and you're still talking past me. It's wild that it still happens.
Yeah.
I just want to involve real talkers as much as possible in this conversation. Shyla says, I stopped calling myself a stay-at-home mom. She says, I am a work-from-home parent and partner. She says, that small language shift totally changed how my family sees my role and how I see myself. I love that. The real DK Gray in our chat, what's up, DK, says the future of the world depends on Western women, which is an interesting comment to make. Les is wondering, when will the U.S. have a female president? Interesting.
We're not saying anything. We're just like, Let's
think about
What do you
different
think?
things. to
When
be.
will they have a female? Are they ever not going to have Donald Trump as a president?
Yeah.
That's a good
I mean, right? Like, how can you even comment? Hopefully tomorrow. Ryan, I'm curious. You've interviewed so many people. What do you think the difference is in, female leadership versus male?
Ooh. What a great question. Like generally speaking, I don't know if I'm comfortable offering like such a general observation, just because I think of when I think of leadership, so much of leadership and what different leaders bring to the table is like their personality traits and their characteristics, and whether those are inherently male or female, I'm not sure. I think that female political leaders deal with a lot more, to state the very obvious and maybe to say the least. I think that generally speaking, women are regarded, and you guys would know more about this than I do, but I think people generally think that, in so many ways, as you may have like a detractor that would say, women are too emotional for politics. You hear that all the time, right? I should mention to our audience, for those that wouldn't know, I mean, you've been heavily involved in political campaigns. You understand politics inside and out as well.
Oh, I've definitely cried in political campaigns.
Well, sure.
But so have the men.
So have the men.
So have the men.
Yeah. But for what one person may be a woman's emotion in politics may also mean that perhaps women are wired with maybe more empathy or more understanding, or maybe they better understand an issue. What do you think?
I knew the E word was going to come in there. Emotion. That's what people always think. Women are too emotional. It's funny that we give women all this power. Most times in the home, like you're the leader of the house. You do a lot of the scheduling. A lot of them do the finances, the grocery shopping, the childcare, everything. But then they're kept out of the roles of hierarchy in workspaces. And I just think the first 4 years of a woman president is probably going to be the best 4 years of modern humanity when it finally happens, and we're all going to be very relaxed, calm, and at ease with all the decisions being
That's
made.
a good point.
Yeah, well,
I have to 100% agree with Johnny on that one. But I mean, also, like, why is the E word a bad thing? I
don't think it is at all.
Right? It's like, and I know you don't think it is, but like it is constantly talked about in this way of like crying and showing your emotion, these are bad things. I actually think that makes me a better doctor and a better leader compared to people who don't bring that to the table.
Well, and everybody has been taught to keep your emotions at bay. But like the greatest things that I've started to learn is like, well, actually, if I just feel my emotions rather than just keeping them here because that's what I'm supposed to do, they go away really fast. And I can now get back to like, I'm calm, I'm not as reactive, all those sorts of things, right? And so, I work in communications. I think communications is the reason why the world is so crazy, right? It's miscommunication, it's misunderstanding, it's egos, it's all of these sorts of things. So I think emotion is a great tool to just be with. Listen to me, I'm such a hypocrite. If you would have talked to me last night, I'm like, but I'm working on it.
Jillian in our live chat says, where is it? Women don't blow up countries when they're bored or annoyed. So,
well, okay, but no, let's just say who just got fired? Christy?
No.
Yeah.
No?
We got
Well,
you. Yeah.
she's a woman. She's pretty bad.
She's pretty bad.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess we could, like we said, there's individuals, and then there's just sort of more generally speaking, like, which is why I have a hard time answering your very fair question. Jenny and I will laugh about this for the next month about how she
put you on the spot,
pinned me down on my own show and got me something I couldn't answer, because I guess I see when we sit here and talk, I mean, I'll interview female leaders. They could be industry leaders. They could be leaders in an ER, or like, media leaders or whatever. And each of you will have different personalities, different things you bring to the table. Is that because you're Shazma, or is that because you're a woman? Maybe a little bit of both. I'm not sure. I interview male leaders in the same way. Maybe men are more stubborn, or maybe men have more of a, probably because we're like subconsciously conditioned this way, but maybe men have kind of more entitlement, like a sort of a sense of I don't know, like for me, when you say that you walk into a, what do you call them, like when people go or waiting to see like off the ER, you get into triage or something, like whatever, and you walk in and they automatically like assume you're a nurse, because you're a woman, right? Like for me, they would automatically even if I was a nurse, and there's lots of male nurses,
if you were
they're going to assume I'm the doctor,
one
right?
day, Ryan, they would assume you were the doctor.
They'll call me the doctor,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
This has nothing to do with men and women, but my favorite thing when my wife and I go out for dinner, she drinks red wine, I drink white. They always give the white wine to her. It's always for me. That has nothing to do with anything. But so I don't know. Yeah, and I'm sure there are, like, generally speaking, character traits of men and character traits of women, of course. But from a leadership standpoint, I find that a very difficult question to answer.
Okay, well, I'll ask you a different one, because you invited a
Why
talk
do you
show
have to
host.
ask me
Because you invited a
questions?
talk show host onto your show. I think, Ryan, I always see you and you are surrounded by powerful women, from Carrie, your wife, to, all the leaders in Edmonton. If you're out for a glass of wine or dinner, you're hosting an event, like it seems to me that you feel very comfortable around powerful women. So did you learn that, or was that by osmosis from your mother or your upbringing? Like, how do you encourage that in your kids to then go out into the world and, stands shoulder to shoulder with them?
Yeah.
Because to me, I feel like I stand shoulder to shoulder with you wherever I am.
Yeah, for sure. And I appreciate you saying that. And we only have a few more minutes with you before you go host a table at a big swanky breakfast downtown. So I want to make sure I don't spend too much time doing all the talking. But I will say this, because I love telling this story. My mom, who's just this round table, we've called it Powerhouse Women. My mom could be sitting around the table with you guys. Amazing. She's a teacher by trade, a French teacher by training. And she left her career. She spent more time in university than she did in a classroom because she wanted to stay at home and raise her family. But she also chaired the curriculum committee at school, and she was always very involved. And then in the latter part, for the lion's share of her career, she was office manager for my dad's medical practice and ran the office, and was administration for the nurses and the whole nine yards. So watching her balance 4 kids, and I probably have the least personality of all the siblings, which try to wrap your mind around that. So she had her hands full. But I remember a census taker came to the house. I was, 8, 10, 11 years old, something like that, and asked my mom something like, "Do you work?" And she said something along the lines of I'm a homemaker. And then the census taker went, "Yeah, but do you work?" And my mind, the reaction, which was not flamethrower, it was certainly assertive, and it was corrective, and it was and I sat there and I watched that, and it honestly, and I know that she's going to be hearing this right now because they watch every single day. So I'll look into the camera. I love you, Mom. I'll never forget that moment. That moment was formative for me in understanding, like I said earlier, not saying to the boys, thanks for helping Mom with supper. Now, I'm not one of these old school guys that's the blue jobs, the pink jobs, that's what Mom does, that's what Dad does, whatever. We split it, but I do think language is important. We refer to Carrie as our family manager. She has the organizational skills. If I was in charge of running our family, we would be in big trouble. We'd be missing appointments. We'd be missing practices. Yeah. So that's it. But let me ask you, just in closing, is there a misconception that people have about successful women or powerful women or assertive women or whatever you want to look at it as, high achieving women that kind of drives you crazy or you'd like to correct?
Yeah, I think the comment that I get from people if I ask, because I don't mind asking, is that I'm very standoffish or very aloof or hard to pin down. And I think that, there's just a lot of things going on in one's head when you're juggling as many responsibilities. It doesn't matter what they are. I have a lot of clients, a lot of very extreme things that are happening all the time. I have a business, I have my kids. And so I think that for me, I'm always like, but I'm actually like really, I'm actually really nice.
You are really nice.
I'm nice. And I want to know about your life. And I love talking to strangers at the grocery store. And my dog is my best friend. And, you know, I now have a pink bedroom. And like, you know, there's this feminine side to me that exists as well too. And so I think you can be a strong leader and look at a strong leader as a woman and not as a woman who's trying to be a man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Like,
totally. Because I think there are a lot of assumptions that are made about women who are in leadership positions or in positions of power where, yeah, the assumption is that you are just this, like, you're the same as a man that would be in that position. But like we've been talking about for the last hour, there's so much more beneath that actually makes us more effective leaders and is so much more well-rounded and holistic in our approaches to things. And yeah, I agree. There are like a lot of assumptions that are made and people don't really think to necessarily look past the surface of what else we have to bring to the table that makes us those good leaders.
You got to go.
yes, Junior Achievement. It's not a swanky breakfast, Ryan. It's a fundraiser for Junior Achievement.
You don't want people thinking you're eating caviar.
No, we're fundraising for like female mentorship for
I
women
did Jay
in high
when
school.
I was in
So
high
did
school.
I.
Yeah,
So
it was
did I.
awesome.
So shout out to Cheryl Watson, CEO of Talk About a Powerful Woman of Junior Achievement, also ran for mayor, also the chair of the Downtown Revitalization Coalition. She's like a trailblazer. And when you have a glass of wine with her, she's like the sweetest, softest, like she's just, I love Cheryl. She loves to dance. Like, she's going to be so mad. I'm just outing her on all these things.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm off. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, people can check out janorthalberta.org for more on Junior Achievement Northern Alberta. See, now we've just gotten you off the hook for showing up a few minutes late.
Yes,
for
I
this
know.
fundraising
I'm gonna
breakfast.
text Cheryl and be like,
you just
"Sorry,
let her know we were
but-
pumping your tires
Yeah.
on Real Talk.
You can donate. There you go.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited. I'm going to be hosting their the JA Northern Alberta Business Hall of Fame Awards, which are coming up. When is it? I'll have to check my calendar. Our family manager would know. I don't know. And
She managed my family too.
Yeah,
please.
sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
You can also check out the amazing work that Jenny does at theadamsagency.ca. Is there any chance you want to hang out for 10 minutes and
Yeah, I
talk
can
women's
stay for a
health
little
in
longer.
particular?
You
That would be
betcha.
great. I promise I
Yeah.
won't keep you too late, but we got the doctor in the house. We got to keep going on here. Jenny Adams, Dr. Shazma Mithani joining us in our feature interview today, presented by Mercedes-Benz Edmonton West. Hey, our friends at the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce want to make sure a couple of things are on your radar, and so do I too. Thanks again, Jenny. Always good to see you. At edmontonchamber.com, you can check out the events that they have coming up through the year. This is the organization that you've got to be in here if you want to make sure that you're networking properly and effectively. If you run a business, if you own a business in the Metro Edmonton region, you owe it to yourself to get a membership with the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce. They've got their provincial budget summary available on their website. Again, that's edmontonchamber.com. If you want quick hits like what matters, what changed, what it means for Edmonton's business community, you're looking for the Budget in a Blink post at edmontonchamber.com. And also coming up on March 12th, early next week, tickets still available for their annual provincial budget luncheon with Finance Minister Nate Horner. Your chance to hear directly from the Finance Minister, ask your own questions, rub shoulders with business leaders and decision makers from across the province. Get your tickets today at edmontonchamber.com. If your family or if your organization is taking a look right now at how you're going to position yourself, not just financially in the next number of years, but of course through generations, North Road Investment Council is a steady hand and a studied voice to guide you through wealth and investing. Their Edmonton-based team, led by Marshall and Carrie, you've seen them on the show, partners with discerning families, foundations, and associations with expert navigation through the complexities of wealth accumulation and investment advisory services. They work with families and organizations across the country. You may have caught Carrie on the show just a few episodes ago. You can see it in our highlights, talking about how AI is disrupting investments, talking about how artificial intelligence is impacting markets. Fascinating insights. If you liked what you heard on that episode, make sure you reach out to them. They offer a second set of eyes, even if you got a financial planner already. Nothing wrong with the second opinion. They can work with you on an hourly basis, and if you happen to mention Real Talk when you talk to them, you'll receive a discounted rate. You just let them know you heard about North Road Investment Council on Real Talk at northroadic.com. And before we get back to Doc Talk with Dr. Mithani, I do want to remind you that starting next week, comedy nights roll out in support of UCAN Youth Services. This is an amazing opportunity to get your friends, family, maybe your colleagues together, have a few laughs at the comic strip on Bourbon Street in West Edmonton Mall, and support a great cause that is UCAN Youth Services, where they're building hope for some of Edmonton's most vulnerable youth, paths out of harmful lifestyles, paths toward positive peer groups, and of course employment opportunities too. That's the legacy of UCAN Youth Services at ucan.ca. Pretty cool to have Dr. Shazma Mithani hanging out with us into overtime on this episode ahead of International Women's Day. That's coming up on Sunday, the 8th of March. Matthew with $10 into our super chat. So Matthew's bought you, it's early in the morning. We usually say bought you a cold beer. It could be a champagne. It could be a sparkling water. Whatever you're feeling today, Doc, Matthew's got it here.
Love it.
And he says a shout out to Ukrainian women. He says they can leave, but many of them are staying in Ukraine and fighting, often dying. He said Real Talkers should keep an eye out for a poignant essay written by one of those women on longing to be feminine, but being unable to do so because she's serving the military. Matthew said, so brave, so selfless. Fascinating stuff.
Wow.
I mean,
Yeah.
people from around the world, of course, International Women's Day will mean different things, will have different significance, and women and advocates are fighting different battles, obviously, to say the least. Why don't we talk specifically about women's health? Because I think that, for a lot of women, it's been interesting. I saw a comment here from Jill who said she's never had a female doctor walk out on her mid-sentence. So maybe treatment styles are different, experiences are different, but you have what I'm expecting to be a very powerful episode, Dr. Sheila and yourself, coming up this next Tuesday, mid next week.
Yeah, so we are actually going off cycle from our bi-weekly schedule to drop this episode on Tuesday, March 10th, about whether women are being gaslit in medicine. And so this was a topic that Sheila and we talk about this a lot, kind of just peripherally in our episodes. We know that there is so much inequity still in the way that women are treated in the healthcare system compared to men. And then all the sub-layers of marginalized women, like Indigenous women, Black women, other women of color. And we thought, you know what, let's just dig right into it. We like to take the hard topics. And so we have an entire episode on the inequities in medicine that women face and whether they are being gaslit. Spoiler alert, yes, we feel that they are. And what you can do to kind of address these system challenges and advocate for yourself in the healthcare system as a woman.
We'll obviously encourage people to check out the full episode, but what would be like a red flag, or what would be a warning for a woman in some context navigating the healthcare system when gaslighting may be occurring? What's something people should keep an eye out for?
So when you walk into a room and you're seeing a physician, a nurse practitioner, a nurse, whatever, not feeling like you got the answers that you needed or wanted, or feeling dismissed. And I think that feeling of dismissal is really quite common that with women who interface with the healthcare system, because there are, decades and centuries, like I've said, of this narrative of, well, it's just lady problems, or it's all just in your head, or you're just anxious, or you're tired, get some rest. And these are all things that we have been led to believe, but then that have raised this generation of doctors and nurses as well that are led to believe this too. And so there's a lot of breaking down that needs to take place of these kind of systemic biases over, hopefully, the short and long term going forward, to try to make sure that women are taken seriously, that they're believed, and that there's a recognition that things present differently in women compared to men, and that we have a lot more work to do in terms of research and being able to treat women equitably in medicine.
I think it was you, actually, in a past episode that told me that medical research up until recently was only being conducted on men, right? Wasn't that you that told me that?
Yeah, so a lot of
it blew my mind.
I mean, really, when you say it out loud, it blows my mind too, right? All of the things that we were taught in medical school and nursing school, a lot of it is based on research in men. And we know, though, that medical conditions, heart disease is a good example of that, present very differently and often subtly in women. And so these are things that can be missed. The data shows that for heart disease and stroke in particular, that women are a lot more likely to be misdiagnosed or have a delayed diagnosis, which then has an impact on their outcomes and their quality of life after that.
Ambustion's just put $5 into the chat, and I think that we've just had I believe that this may be an announcement here. Ambustion says, I just got the okay to tell people I'm going to be a dad with one hell of a strong woman. I believe we've just had a pregnancy announcement in our live chat. Powered by Park Power, Ambustion. Congratulations. That's incredible. I feel like we should be sending you the $5. That's really wonderful news. Do you see yourself when it comes to young women or whatever age they are, I guess, coming out of med school, like the next generation of physicians? Do you sort of either subconsciously or intentionally adopt a mentorship role? And if so, have you noticed any differences in the mindset or the approach or anything about different generations of women working in healthcare?
I think that the women coming through healthcare right now have a much more balanced approach and hopefully a more holistic approach to medicine. There are so many more conversations happening in medical school right now that were not happening when I went through medical school about, like naming the inequities, seeing that there is a difference, talking about the unsaid things that we weren't speaking about back then that we're only just like starting to catch up on now. It is so great to see that the medical curriculum is acknowledging that and is catching up with it, and then training our future doctors and nurses with a much more equitable and holistic approach to medicine. And I see that in the way that they interact with me when I have medical students, when I have residents that are working with me. I absolutely see that difference coming through the system too, which is so great to see, because it has to start there, right? It has to start in the training so that we can continue to push through these barriers.
Do you see women like advocating for themselves, navigating the healthcare system? You hate to think that it would be up to an individual to advocate for themselves, but sometimes that's just the reality. And I guess it could be for a number of reasons, but do you see it? And if you don't see it, are you encouraging women to do so?
Yeah, and so I really encourage people to check out the episode that we are dropping on March 10th, because we talk about, there's so many different layers of barriers that are existing in the healthcare system for women. And I want to start by saying, like, women should not have to advocate for themselves. In an ideal world, you would not be dismissed, you would not be gaslit, you would be able to have equal access and equal treatment. But unfortunately, while we're waiting for things to catch up, it is a circumstance where advocacy is going to have value to your medical care. And so, yes, I do see women advocating for themselves. And I absolutely encourage it until we can catch up in medicine. Unfortunately, it's a reality of the situation. And we dig into that on the episode as well to give women tools on how to advocate for themselves.
People will hear when I introduce you on this show, and people hear that you're an associate clinical professor at a medical school at one of Canada's most prominent universities. You're an ER doc at 2 hospitals. You're the host of a popular podcast. You appear on national television shows. You appear on this freaking show, and you also have a family. And they'll look at this and they'll kind of go, "Gosh, I mean, that's a high achiever." What's your message to your fellow women? What's your message to anybody out there that feels as though, or the reality is that they've had to leave something on the altar to pursue or to fulfill something else? People that have had to make professional or career trade-offs, or maybe the trade-off has been in their family life, or they've had to make really tough choices. How have you navigated the tough choices? Because on the surface, everything appears to be going pretty well.
Well, first, everything doesn't always appear as it seems, right? I mean, I think that social media and like the way that we present ourselves as women and just in general, we don't get to see all the stuff that's happening behind the scenes. I have an extremely supportive husband who pulls a lot of the weight at home. You and I have talked about this before as well. I would not be able to do the things that I do without his support and being able to be a co-house manager with me at home. So, I mean, I would say that it's also okay to, I try as much as I can to share when things aren't going well. Like, I had a really rough week this week. There was a lot of chaos with work, with kids activities, sports. It's soccer tryout week this week too. And so it's a lot to have to deal with. And so I gave myself permission to literally just sit and read my book on Tuesday, because I could not cognitively get there to do all the things off my to-do list. So first, giving yourself permission to take the breaks, acknowledging that those breaks actually make you a better parent, make you a better friend, make you a better leader in the work that you're doing. And also knowing that it's also okay to say no to things. We want to, when Jenny was here, we talked about this too. We want to do all the things, but we don't have to do all the things, and we shouldn't do all the things. As an emerge doc, I can tell you the one thing that stands out to me is that life is short. you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And so make sure that you're filling your cup with things that make you happy. And if that means that, you know, you take the wake up in the morning and get those extra snuggles in with your kids, or those extra snuggles at nighttime, or go have the, you know, glass of wine or coffee with your friend, like do things that make you happy, because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah, it's so well said. Before we thank you for your time, I have to ask about, my buddy refers to these as praise reports. And I saw a praise report on your Instagram, at least on your podcast Instagram at the Doc Talk Pod. You featured an episode through Heart Month, and people can check it out. You got a message from a listener that is, I got chills when I read it. It's remarkable. And I wanted to talk about it, and I wanted to talk to you about women's heart health, because my understanding is that warning signs of a heart attack will present very differently in men and women. And how could we possibly not talk about this? So can you tell us the story of how this all played out?
That was actually through you, Ryan. So when Sheila and I were on the show last summer, I believe it was, you had forwarded us this email from a listener who talked about how she heard our episode and it gave her the courage to go back, because she felt dismissed the first time. She was worried about some symptoms that she was having. She was sent home and then still did not feel like she had the answers that she wanted. She was still feeling these symptoms, and then went back and turned out that she was diagnosed with a heart attack. And she, in the message, I mean, like when I read the message initially, it moved me to tears, because it was the situation where she said, if I hadn't listened to your show and heard Sheila and Shazma on the show, I would not have thought.
Wait, it was a Real Talk episode?
It was a Real Talk episode.
I thought it was a Doc Talk episode.
No, it was, I mean, like, so that, like that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It was when Sheila and I came and talked about heart health. And then, and then this listener.
Well, now I'm even more excited.
Yeah, this listener emailed you, and then you forwarded the email to us, and we were like briefly in touch with her. She said that we could share the story, like anonymized story.
So this was the same. Okay, got it.
This was right. You remember this? That you forwarded this to us.
That was quite some. That was almost a year ago.
It was quite some time ago, and we
wonderful.
felt that it was really important during Heart Month, this past February, to highlight this story. And kind of, you know, we re-released our heart health episode, and, you know, long way to answer your question, but yes, like heart disease does present very differently in women. It's often with very vague symptoms. So like fatigue, lightheadedness, not sleeping well, a vague feeling that something just isn't quite right, shortness of breath, like things that women would often just push down and push aside and dismiss. Like these are all signs of a potential heart attack in women. And so it's really important, not only for us as like medical providers to be able to acknowledge that and recognize that, but as women to not just dismiss those feelings and those symptoms.
I was surprised to read that heart disease is the number one cause of death in women in Canada. I don't know, put on the spot, what I would have thought would be the number one cause of death, but heart disease, number one. I feel like,
number
and
one.
I know we're just out of Heart Month. We have been talking about it. We've been doing everything we can to advocate to raise support for the CK Huey Heart Center at the Royal Alex, the Mazankowski at the University Hospital. Obviously, we've talked a lot about innovation, but the male versus female implications, or the information that we need to know about it is something I feel like, generally speaking, is under discussed.
Yeah, and you know, not only is heart disease the leading cause of death in women in Canada, that, you know, the stat that I gave a few minutes ago about how women still tend to be misdiagnosed, underdiagnosed, and dismissed means that there's a difference in outcomes between men and women as a result of that. And so that's why continuing to talk about it and making sure that healthcare professionals and women know that heart disease can present differently, I think is going to continue to save lives.
When you say that women are more likely to have a worse outcome after a heart attack, what are we talking about?
Yeah, and so there could be differences in like quality of life thereafter, right? Because, you know, the mantra is time is muscle. So the heart is a muscle, and every second it does not have oxygen during a heart attack means that muscle is dying. And so the quicker you can get the oxygen traveling back to the heart muscle, the better the recovery is. And so if there is a delay in diagnosis, there could be impacts on mortality, so death rates. There could be impacts on how well your heart is functioning afterwards, and then impacts on your quality of life too.
Wow. Erin's suggesting that the second leading cause of death in women globally could be childbirth. Could that be accurate? She says that may be more of a global phenomenon.
Definitely. I don't know the actual stats, but absolutely, like in you know, the global south, where we don't really have as much of a concern from maternal mortality around childbirth, because we have we're lucky to live in a country that has a developed healthcare system that can take care of women during childbirth. We don't really see that in Canada and the US, but certainly a much bigger issue in other parts of the world.
Okay, I'll cite the source, and the source I'm using ChatGPT, so take it for what it's worth. This is just on the fly, but it does say deaths related to pregnancy and childbirth, and they're referencing the World Health Organization here on maternal mortality. This is a report from April of 2025. Still a significant cause of death among women globally, but not among the top overall causes of death. But wrap your mind around this. In 2023, from the WHO's website, 260,000 women died from pregnancy or childbirth complications. That was in 2023, 3 years ago. About 700 deaths per day, a death every 2 minutes. And like you've just alluded to, over 90% of these deaths are occurring in low and lower middle income countries. Wow. Wild to think about. Leading causes of death: heart attacks, number 1, like you said, stroke 2, COPD 3, respiratory infections 4, lung cancer 5, Alzheimer's 6, diabetes, kidney disease, TB, tuberculosis, and COVID-19 in recent years, it says. There was a comment here that I thought was a valuable one from, my apologies, where are you? Was it Amanda or someone like that said, oh yeah, it's Amanda here, who says, oh great, the doctor has just described the exact same symptoms as anxiety attacks.
Well, that's just it, right? Like women are dismissed as like it's in your head. It's just, what your anxiety or depression, whatever it is. But like these are symptoms that overlap with even things like perimenopause and menopause, right? Like these are symptoms that are so overlapping. And so the first step is being aware of them, and then just being in tune with your body and like knowing what's normal for you and what isn't, and not dismissing them. If you're worried if something is different, you need to seek medical attention.
It is so good to see you. Before we wrap, I should ask I always love to ask guests, in particular on Fridays, I don't know why, if there's anything big that we missed, anything that you're going to be walking out of the room and going, oh gosh, I wish I would have had a chance to mention that. In the context of International Women's Day, women's health, maybe I'll ask you this in closing and you can find a way around it. But if you and I, we know we'll still be friends in 20 years. If I'm still doing this show in 20 years, if you're retired at that point, I doubt you will be, but you could be our medical expert emeritus. How would that be?
I'm going to put that on my CV in 20 years.
I like that. Yeah, we'll note it down for now. What's something that you hope is an issue today that would be resolved, or a non-issue, or maybe 10 years, 10, 20 years from now?
A couple of things. I think with my medical hat on, I hope that women are no longer dismissed anymore, that we are treated exactly the same way, and I shouldn't even say the same way. We are treated the way that we need to be as unique women in the healthcare system, that there is an acknowledgement that women present differently, that the research is equitable, that that it is representative of the population that we have, that's what is represented in research, and that the medical system has broken down all those layers of barriers that continue to broaden those inequities. And then the second thing that I hope is that kind of bringing it to the conversation when Jenny was here, that women are in a position where they are continuing to lift each other up, but like not short selling themselves. We have this tendency to undersell ourselves, to dismiss ourselves in terms of the strengths and the qualities that we have. And I hope we live in a world, to end it off to Johnny's point, where there have been many female presidents and prime ministers. Absolutely. Thanks for doing this. We sure appreciate you. A lot of respect for the work that you're doing, Doc. Obviously on the front lines of healthcare in one of Canada's busiest ERs, in instructing the doctors of tomorrow. Of course, what you're doing in podcasting, and seeing you, we always like get super, when we see you like on the Social or whatever, the big national shows, we're always like, that's our girl. I love it.
That's Dr. Shazma, Dr. Sheila, doing an amazing job. And then also just as a mom, just doing an amazing job. Keep killing it. Thanks for joining us here ahead of International Women's Day. We appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
That's Dr. Shazma Mithani. You can, of course, Dr. Sheila Vijayasinghe and Dr. Shazma Mithani, of course, co-host of the Doc Talk podcast. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts, and make sure you give them a follow on Instagram as well. And of course, we're always curious to know what you think about what you've heard. Send us a note. You can leave a comment on the YouTube episode, leave a comment on Spotify, or send us an email to talk@ryanjesperson.com. Real Talk is so proud to be supporting the Ben Stelter Foundation with an event coming up. Check out this website at benstelterfoundation.com. This is where you can get your tickets. A big event mid-April. The 16th and the 17th in particular, it is the Hearts and Hands Poker Tournament in support of the Ben Stelter Foundation, an exciting 2-day charity event going down at Pure Casino Yellowhead. It's going to bring, I guess, our community together, sure, but also it's going to bring poker enthusiasts together in support of the Ben Stelter Foundation, one of our absolute favorite causes. What an incredible force that young man was. His family doing a remarkable job honoring Ben's legacy. They're partnering up with the Edmonton Police Foundation here. There's up to $50,000 in cash and prizes. You don't have to compete both days. I'm going to be playing April 16th. I'll be there day one. If you want to come try to take me out at the table, see if my poker face actually works. This is a high-energy event that's going to combine competition, connection, and compassion, which will be an unforgettable experience to say the least. Funds raised in support of the Ben Stelter Foundation are going to go toward the Ben Stelter Center for Proton Therapy and Neuroscience, ensuring that families have access to world-class cancer treatment close to home. Those that are volunteering their time, donating, we're still looking for sponsors and players. We'll be working together to build healthier, safer, and a stronger community. You can register today for the Hearts and Hands Poker Tournament, April 16th and 17th, by visiting benstelterfoundation.com. You and I have never played poker together. Are you a poker player?
And we never will, Ryan.
Yeah, we don't really talk about poker a lot, you and I.
You know, I take money from you. I don't give it back. I don't hand my paycheck back to you, Ryan. Come on, that would be silly.
This is what I've been trying to set up for years now, is to find a way to pay you. And
how can I divert some of those funds back?
Yeah. People outside the green room just hear double or nothing. Amazing conversation with our two guests this morning, Jenny and Dr. Shazma. As mentioned to the audience, we had a couple other guests confirmed, and this is just kind of an unusual circumstance. I don't think in my career I've ever had, like, with 1 minute's notice, two guests have to withdraw from a roundtable. But I will say this, both very valid reasons. And
they're busy.
They're busy. They're extremely busy. They're both dealing with crisis-type situations right now this morning, and that is because of the positions of leadership they're in. I don't need to get into that. That's none of our business. But I promise you that we will get both of those individuals back on the show in a future episode. So yeah,
it was great. It was great to hear, and just listening to, like, like Dr. Shazma was one of the most intelligent people I've ever met, and to hear her, when you brought up that story of, like, if you walked into a hospital, they'd probably look at the male guy as the doctor. It's exactly the story my mom told me when she was hired. My mother was head of a health department at Durham College, hired at 30 years old, arguably the youngest in Canada to head any health department.
Really? At
a university or college. Maybe in Canada. We didn't look at the time, but I remember reading the article when she got hired. And, I just texted her today and asked, how her experience was. And she says, especially in the 80s when she was like an ER nurse, in the States, because of course I grew up in the States. She met my father there. She said, the doctors who were 99% male were like gods. But she said the difference was we did all the work. Like, we were with the patients 12 hours a day. We were assessing them every second, right? And then, of course, when she gets into this position of, authority, that is, probably the first time you've ever seen it. She was the head of health department at college and then the university at Durham in Ontario, and people questioning her decisions, guys under her trying to steer her, knowledge to how they think, the department should be run. And you're talking to one of, just because she's young, like, she's in that position because she's an exceptionally good person at what she does, yet still she's being gaslit. She's being, pushed to make decisions, by male accompanying, employees or acquaintances who are under her. It's just, this has been happening all along. And I wasn't lying when I said, I think the first female president will be the best 4 years of modern humanity. I honestly think we just need to dip our toes in and get it over with. I don't even care. I know people are going to look at me right now online and be like, you're effing nuts. I don't even care if it's Trump's daughter. I just want,
Johnny.
I don't even care. If we're in an oligarchy, if we're in an authoritarian state, at least put the woman in there. I just know as soon as a woman gets in there, there's going to be no more cutting off reporters. There's going to be no banning reporters from interview sessions. There's going to be no more ballrooms being built and galas and ridiculous stuff going on. There's going to be no more firing. Like, I have to look it up, but I don't think I've ever seen an administration in 2 terms that has fired and hired. Like yesterday with Kristi Noem. She's literally doing a speech. I'm seeing it live on X. And I'm watching CBC behind it. And CBC says, breaking news, Kristi Noem has been replaced, promoted, they said, but more like demoted to a different, like she doesn't even know she's being fired while she's making an announcement at another event. It's just, the whole thing is just combobulated. I feel like we'd just have a relaxing 4 years. Things will be thought out. It wouldn't be knee-jerk reactions. Like, it would just be, and I said the E word today as bad because I think that's the one thing, men who don't want women in position of power usually bring up when you say female president. They say, oh, she's going to bank on her emotions and everything like this. What is wrong with that? What's wrong with taking a minute, seeing how your gut feels, using your head as well, having empathy, all these things? Because what's happening right now isn't really working. So I think we just have a calm 4 years. I think that the world would come back together. At the near the end of the term, we'd be looking at numbers and it'd be like lowest this, lowest that. Deaths down. Everything would just be down. Everything would be better.
Well, what would happen is that if any category dipped. In a negative way, like if unemployment was up or you might say,
it'd be attack time.
Then it's the woman's fault, right?
Course,
but if like the economy were to like be boosted, they would be like, well, like men, this was policy for years, and now the woman is enjoying the fruits of the labor.
Sure,
right?
yeah.
But we've seen it. You look at. I think that women in industry. It's interesting here about women in politics. We'll talk about some of just as the challenges that they'll encounter. Some of them are subconscious and subtle and kind of quiet and implied, and doesn't make them any less shitty. But it's just something that. As a male, like as a man, I think that when we try to, you try to sort of walk miles. There was this event actually literally called Walk a Mile that I was proud to support for like 10 plus years while they were doing it in support of the YWCA, and it'd be like guys walking around a town square. Basically, it was like City Hall, walking around outside City Hall wearing these big stilettos, like high heels. Johnny, I don't know if you ever did it, but like they had to find a pair of like size 13 stilettos for me to wear. And you'd walk for the hour.
Yeah.
You'd raise money. You'd want to kind of do this, but the bigger principle around like walking a mile in the shoes of someone who you don't share their life experience. And in this case today, we're talking about International Women's Day. It could be like a new Canadian, or it could be a single parent, or it could be like a million different things. But just trying to understand the experience of other people. I think that idea, we say it on Real Talk all the time, seek to understand. And that's what an episode like this is all about.
If you're in a relationship with someone, especially a woman, I think it's different. But like nowadays, I think it's just the bare minimum is trying to give women respect. We kind of grow up, well, at least I did back in the day. Not trying to date myself, but like, men were kind of, they were the breadwinners. They were the head of the household. They were all these things. And things are different these days. Women are independent. Women work. Women are the breadwinners in a lot of homes. And I always thought that walking in heels event was funny. I did it every year with the radio station, no matter which one I was on. And I was like, it is kind of cliche, like, because it's funny, like guys walking around in high heels. And then we're like, women's life is hard because they have to wear heels. Like, all women don't wear heels. You know what?
Of course.
I always thought in the back of my mind, this event even is problematic.
Well, I think
what I mean? Like,
I don't know if it's problematic.
But I get it. There's a deeper meaning.
I'm sure they stopped doing it for a reason.
100%.
I would imagine. Well, and as like, actually, I'm not even going to get into it.
But
I would suggest that it was designed to be a photo op.
Sure.
But I can understand why some people wouldn't appreciate it.
But it's funny that I'm guessing a man came up with it because like there's so many other ways to support women, and this is the event you come with. Let's put a bunch of guys in high heels and have them get blisters on their feet and fall down. Like it's not to me when I was there. I was like, yeah, great, but it didn't seem serious to me. My mom just texted me and said when I was working Emerge back in the day before she had the job at the college, I had an elderly once, or an orderly, so someone under her, once in a recovery room, continually call me honey. I turned around and I told him, I'm not your honey, I'm not your wife, I'm not your girlfriend. My name is Kathy Hicks, and you can address me that way. But these are the little things, right? That the little slights that like is like the bare minimum to address doctor.
Wild to call someone
to
honey.
address Shazma as doctor when she's in her room and things like that, right?
Yeah, totally. Chelsea the Ginge in our live chat, powered by Park Power. Get exclusive discounts on internet, electricity, natural gas at parkpower.ca/realtalk. Chelsea says, on my team of public policy workers, we let out all of our emotions about our work, whatever they are. We get them out, and then we put our heads down and do the things. I love that, Chelsea. That sounds great. This is... I mean, a whole bunch of you have shared really neat perspectives today. David says the Dalai Lama has frequently stated that the world will be saved by Western women, emphasizing their potential to lead with compassion and reduce violence.
100%.
He advocates for women in power. GE says not all women are the same. Many female leaders in the West have been conservative. They've been permitted to lead as long as they would lead like the men would or with the values of the men. That's interesting. I'm not applying that comment to Margaret Thatcher, but I think of Margaret Thatcher, as like sort of the more prominent global leaders. Angela Merkel in Germany obviously would be another example. We've got an interesting situation in Italy right now with a very conservative government. But she's standing up to Donald Trump in very interesting ways. Ruth says, what about the violence, sadly, that happens in classrooms? She says, I'm just noting that more teachers are females. I loved this from Raw Holistic Health Wellness. Great handle. I'm sorry I missed this. They were intending for me to put this question in front of Jenny and Shazma. How can men better make space and empower women in the workplace and the world? I would say that that's a wonderful question, in particular for us men, to ponder, and not just on Sunday, but as we move forward, especially in positions of leadership.
100%. I would rather, honestly, this isn't a joke. I would rather pass the football off to a woman in a leadership role. Like every woman I've ever been, as a straight, cis male, every woman I've been in a relationship has always been better at organization, stress management, financially, sounder that like I'm a stupid flamboyant spender of money. Like they've always been more responsible than me, more mature, more emotionally in touch with themselves. I would love to be to hand off a leadership role to them in a position of power and be like, I'll just be under you. I'll just take orders. You know what I mean? But I wasn't joking. I'll say it again. Like the first couple years of a woman president in the United States is going to be transformational. It's going to be great. And we were close a couple times. And I do think that one of those reasons is men. And it's just, they can't see a woman in power, no matter, even if they're a Democrat, you know what I mean? I think some of them didn't vote for Hillary or didn't vote for Harris. I always say her name wrong, so I switch and just say Harris.
You say Harris. No.
I don't want to disrespect her, but you know what I mean? Whether you agreed with them or not, some people just didn't vote because they were like, there's still this fear that the world will come crumbling down when the free world is run by a woman, and it's high time that it happens. And I'm not saying whichever woman runs next, install her. But I'm saying we've had some available candidates. And I think now, there's some floating around and it would be nice to see them step up. Although I think, it's looking like Newsom is going to be the guy who goes up against Trump.
Randy notes, he says, yeah, I really like Italy's PM, Giorgia Meloni,
Yeah.
and her leadership. She's not, if you read about her policy, may not be everybody's cup of tea.
No.
But that's
but
fine.
I'm talking about her strength, her poise.
She's a strong woman, that's for sure.
She's,
Super Chat Ken says, my own wife is amazing. She has far better skills than I do in comms, like in communications and listening, interpersonal skills. He says, I'm better at a few things too, but not much. He says, we are truly equal partners. I love that. Aaron says, okay, Jespo, your mom is a boss. Oh yeah. Hell yeah. My mom is like, if you've ever met her, she's like the nicest lady in the world. But if you mess with her family, you are cooked.
Yeah, it's the mama bear thing.
Oh yeah. I wouldn't. Yeah.
I talk to her once a month when you speakerphone, and she's delightful. Garth says here, funny that Johnny feels this way about a hypothetical female president, but not our premier. How many times on this show, even though I don't agree with our premier's policies most of the time, have I said that she's an incredible communicator, very intelligent, highly in touch with her base? Like, I've given the premier tons of compliments, and every time she's in here, I'm respectful with her. So that's just ridiculous.
It is what it is. Alberta Girl says, wasn't there like a report a while ago that she says, does anybody remember that poll or the study that was done that concluded that Alberta was the worst province to be a woman? It was the report by the Canadian Center
true?
for Policy. Yeah, the Canadian Center for Policy Alternatives had ranked the best and the worst Canadian cities for women based on 5 indicators: economic security, leadership representation, health, education, and personal security. And Edmonton, among Canada's 20 largest cities, ranked last.
Not just Alberta, the city of Edmonton specifically.
So you can check it out. I'm showing my screen right now. It's at policyalternatives.ca. This is from April of 2014. So this is 12 years ago. Still, though, a new study new in 2014. Quebec City was the best city to be a woman in 2014. Edmonton, literally the worst, which is not great. And Calgary, of the 20 largest cities in Canada, Calgary was ranked 17th. So Montreal 4th, Toronto 6th, Vancouver 13th. I would be curious to see. You know what we should do is I'll do this. I'll make this commitment to you, Real Talkers. We'll reach out to them. We'll reach out to the Center for Policy Alternatives and see if they have an update on that. That would be an interesting story to follow. I'd be curious to know about that. Whether or not there have been advancements made. And it would be interesting to learn more a little bit about their criteria as well. Ken says, as a father of 3 women, we need to keep an eye on this government. Talking about Alberta, says their Take Back Alberta masters want to creep us toward limitations on reproductive rights, which is a fair comment, Ken, to be sure. I think we're going to have to keep an eye on this government on a number of fronts, including access to medical assistance in dying. That's another one. But when you're talking here for International Women's Day, we'll focus on the reproductive rights now fairly and for sure. Tracy D says, as a woman of size, I get a double whammy. She says, I get medical professionals that brush me off all the time. She says, I simply do not get taken seriously. Jillian, a teacher, junior high, says the girls I teach right now are so smart, so hardworking, so tough. She says, look out, world. They are coming to run this place.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of women of size, too, that's a whole other, genre, part of women that, have an even tougher time. I don't know if you've seen Shrill with Adie Bryant from the SNL, formerly of SNL.
No. 3
seasons of that. It wasn't really canceled. It just kind of came to an ending, but man, if you have a chance, they just put it on Netflix to watch
Shrill?
that show. Yeah, it's a comedy, but it just gives you an insight into not only how it is to be a woman in a workplace, but also a woman who is, of a significant size or whatever. Like when you see big guys, when you see hefty guys, you think, oh, he makes good money. He eats a lot of food. He goes out a lot. He's happy. That we use words like jolly or, they're often like
portly.
The funny guys.
Hefty.
But with women, it's always like, what about your health? Like we're always constantly questioning them and saying that they're unhealthy and this and that. And she just brings it up how like she's always been a big woman and navigating through life like that. And there are instances where they show her going to the gynecologist or the doctor and they'll give her brochures on gastric bypass and stuff like that. And she's like, I'm fine. I'm happy with who I am. I'm here to get like a pap smear. Why are you giving me this? But it's another way we gaslight women and we question them, right? Where a man of significant size, you don't really, they're often, hey, big guy, it's not really a problem. So.
Yeah. Scarlett says she was just diagnosed with severe anemia, low hemoglobin, says she had to cancel a cruise because her doctor was concerned about stroke or heart attack being so far away from home. She says women are just told to live with anemia, not really realizing how serious it actually can be. A lot of you are talking about your interactions in healthcare. This one from Nia. Nia, thanks for being a YouTube channel member. We appreciate it. She says the biggest failure in the medical system is not treating perimenopause. She says 100% of women will go through it and barely any women will get help. She says the government of Alberta doesn't even cover a doctor's appointment for menopause. Is that true, Nia?
What?
Unbelievable. I will say this. If you missed our conversation, this was May 13th of 2025. So coming up on a year ago, this was one of our most downloaded podcasts of the year, by the way. This was the uptake on the podcast was wild. Mm-hmm. It's called The Menopause Mission, and it's a feature interview with Jesse Shuchuk, who's doing remarkable advocacy on menopause and the Menopause Mission. You can check that out if you just Google Real Talk Menopause Mission, Real Talk Jesse, Real Talk Menopause. The episode will pop up on podcasts or on our YouTube archive. You can always just search for it by date as well. That was May 13th of 2025, the Menopause Mission. Nia, thank you for bringing that up. Amanda says, all I can suggest for my fellow women, always ask your doctor to document if they are dismissing your concerns. It seems like that may cause them to consider the liability if you end up being correct about your symptoms. Interesting point there from Amanda, too. Thanks to everybody that's contributed to this conversation. It really truly means a lot. We hope that it's prompted some thought within you, like we said, in your family, your whether it's how you're approaching how you're parenting, or maybe even how you're running your business. I think for a lot of people, it's going to be the language that you use or how you treat your friends.
I mean, that's
a lot of the subconscious stuff.
Not to interrupt you, but that's the bare minimum. I keep using this word bare minimum now because, I still have work to do too. But bare minimum is like addressing and giving women respect, right? Because we're in 2026 now, right? When you have the Jenny and the doctor here today, these women deserve respect. And I still see instances. And it's also up to men. I saw, is it Scott Galloway? What's the guy who's really smart?
Prof G, Scott Galloway.
One of the best things he says is one thing about being masculine that you can still embrace without being nowadays where we're kind of taught to tone down is just being a protector. And it's not about getting fired up and stepping in and punching people. It's about when you hear someone getting kind of, insulted, don't just sit back, step in. Say, hey, what's going on here isn't right. You're talking to a doctor. This isn't an orderly. This isn't a nurse. You should give her respect, etc. like that. We should still be protectors like that. It's not about getting your chest up and hitting people, like I said. It's about stepping in and letting people know when they're wrong, especially when it's men doing it to women, because it happens. Yeah. I see it happen all the time, and I'm like, God damn it. That was not rude, but under the surface, there was a veiled, I'm still kind of above you, even though I make less money than you, even though you've gone to school for longer than me, even though you're a professional and I'm an amateur. It's always they're above them, right? So don't be afraid to step in, and you don't have to be rude. Just be like, hey, you're speaking to a doctor here.
Hold people to a higher standard. Yeah. Noob Try Again says I've been so fortunate to be surrounded by strong, capable, confident women my whole life. He says, as a man, I'm better and more fortunate for it. Mm-hmm. He says, and them sharing their experience has opened my eyes. I also wanted to note that I see a familiar name that is resonating in a big way in our live chat today. Where is it so I can read her comment? But it's Wendy Hall. Oh. And Wendy is a town councilor in Jasper. I have two things to say. Three things. Number one, thanks for being a YouTube channel member, Wendy, and a wonderful friend of the show. She says she loved Jenny Adams' comment about feeling empowered with her feminine side in a leadership role. She says, I loved this. Men in power are encouraged to be masculine all the time. Yeah. Wendy works in hospitality. She's also an elected counselor, so she knows a lot about that. I also wanted to note a moment of seriousness here. Not that the show hasn't been serious, but Wendy is also involved, and her family is involved. She's a parent of one of the players on the Jasper Bearcats hockey team. Oh, no. And this is the hockey club that lost two beloved players, these best friends, these girls, just a short time ago, in a highway accident just outside Jasper, right after practice. As a matter of fact, when we had posted those team photos, and we've asked you if you're able to support the GoFundMes for their families, and you can find those on all of my social platforms. The team photo, Johnny, that we've been sharing was taken just before the accident. And anyway, Wendy let me know. By the way, I didn't mean to say anyway there. Wendy let me know that tonight, so the day that we're doing this, so this is a Friday, so tonight is the Bearcats' first game back into playoffs. All of their games last weekend were postponed for obvious reasons. They're in round 2 of the playoffs. The Bearcats have never made it past round 1, and it's a home game. And so it's going to be a huge game in Jasper tonight. And there's, Wendy says there's going to be a lot of pressure on the Bearcats. I would also suggest that there is going to be an incredible energy in that room and nothing but love for these players, these U18 players. And so let us just send everything that we can from a good vibes perspective, our hearts full of love for the Bearcats family and for their players. Studios. And also, if you are anywhere near Jasper or Hinton or Edson or anywhere, I mean, if you're in Valemont, you're listening to this podcast, whatever, get out there and support the Jasper Bearcats round 2 of playoffs. That's tonight, Friday night in Jasper.
That's amazing. And I know we're getting out of here. I don't know if we don't have to go to it, but it is Women's Day, and SNL, it's pretty cool to see Hillary Knight and Megan Keller.
Well, I just know they'll shut us down on the algorithm.
Oh, that's true.
So we can't play it. But tell people to check it out.
They should check it out because it was amazing. They had the Hughes brothers come out first, which obviously, like, you know, they got no teeth and they're standing up there and it was all funny. Connor's Story of Heated Rivalry was the host. So it was like, they made a great joke at the start where the Hughes brothers were like, hey, we've been so busy, we haven't seen your show, but we heard it's great. It's about hockey, right? And Connor's like, yeah, kinda. And then he's like, oh, well, we were out getting our teeth knocked out and blah, blah, blah. Does that happen in your show? And he's like, kinda. It was just, and then he brings out Hillary and Megan, and they, of course, said, you know, hey, we were just going to come on our own, but we decided we'd invite the boys, right? Yeah. Which is a playback to Trump. But whatever. Are you going to cry?
Johnny? It is time, before we get to the Flamethrower, it is time for an official Hanson Distillery Minnie Yeags cream liqueur taste test. Friends, as far as we know, and we might be, I already have glasses, I already have ice, you don't need to do anything. Not my first rodeo. I have been preparing for this all episode, John Hicks. I have been waiting weeks since we first heard the rumor that our friends at Hanson Distillery, that's hansondistillery.com, were releasing this proudly Canadian, Alberta-made premium cream liqueur just in time for spring, just in time for Easter. And as far as I know, and I do think I'm probably making this up, this is the very first bottle of Minnie Yeags ever released. There's no way that's actually true, but I just want this to be extra special.
I love the marketing on this. Minnie Yeags.
Isn't that so good?
If you're not hearing Ryan pronounce it, it's like Y-E-G.
Yeah, proudly Edmonton, proudly Alberta. I
love it.
And this, of course, taps into the tradition of in my mind, one of the greatest all-time candies. One of, as far as I'm concerned, one of the most unstoppable forces on the taste front. that crispy, that hard candy shell with the creamy milk chocolate here. And so I suppose that you could probably have this in your coffee. You can find different ways to enjoy it. I thought maybe, and you can do whatever you want, but I thought maybe we gotta do it on the rocks.
We gotta go straight up.
Should we do it on the rocks, or you want to go straight up?
No, we gotta go straight up.
Do you want yours straight up?
No, I mean on the rocks.
You want it on the rocks?
Okay. We're not going to put it in coffee or anything. We're going to taste it right.
I'll tell you what we'll do. And so here it is. Look at this. And even just the logo. They've done such a beautiful job with the logo. But Johnny, here, I'll hand you yours. I'll take mine. And then we can do a live taste test on camera to see what we think. Our lips have not yet tasted this
Friday
Minnie Yeag goodness.
Friday. Thank you.
So here you are, courtesy of our friends at Hanson Distillery. And we got something going on with my camera here.
No, I just zoomed in on the little bottle here.
I love that. Have we always been able to do that? I love that. Look at
quickly.
that.
All right, here we go.
Okay, ready? Well, cheers to you, buddy. And here's to International Women's Day. Here's to the best talk audience in the country. We appreciate you guys, and we sure appreciate our friends at Hanson Distillery. All right, here it is.
To powerful women everywhere.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, no.
Oh, boy.
I don't want to make a joke here, but Dr. Shaz, I may have diabetes. But I may need your help.
This
is
it's better than I expected it to be, and I had very high expectations.
It's got the chocolate first and the candy after.
Yeah.
After. Whoa.
Yeah. Okay, so I've tried it. Now I'm going to have to just for this to be reputable and to be a proper taste test.
This is, of course, how you would do it if you're a working professional. This is how you would.
If you're a working professional,
Minnie Yeags from Hanson Distillery, you put it in your morning coffee.
You would need it in your morning coffee. I'll just give that a little stir with my pen, keeping it classy here, and let's see how it mixes with coffee.
Oh no, this is.
Oh my gosh! I mean, imagine. Whatever cream liqueur you've tried.
Okay, so here's the thing. And
this is better in your coffee.
I'll say this now. I thought it was going to be overpowering. But this actually,
that's not too sweet.
You know what I mean? I thought it was going to be overpoweringly sweet. And, I wouldn't say this on air after, but I'll say it now. And I thought it was going to be really candy. It is really nice. It's smooth. And the chocolate's first, and the candy is the aftertaste. Yeah. It's crazy.
Can you imagine this on ice cream?
Oh, no.
Dude.
how you're just.
Well, I'm just starting to get ideas.
I can't wait. Let's get more women in leadership roles so we can just hang back and drink this at work and just,
Jillian says that she is ordering one as we speak.
Do it.
At HansonDistillery.com. She says she's also going to try the maple brown sugar oat milk one. I think that's a great idea. They have several that they'll release their special edition cream liqueurs through the year, and remember that mint chocolate one that they brought
Christmas
by around the
was great,
holidays
yeah.
blew my mind.
So only 2,000 of this?
2,000 bottles.
Yeah.
That's all they're doing right now at HansonDistillery.com. Pop into the distillery, or you can risk it, I guess, and wait for it to arrive at your favorite liquor store. If I was you, I'd go, number one, you know what's the coolest part about going to Hanson? You walk in and you can shake hands with the master distiller. He's there.
Yeah.
They got a big shot of Johnny Cash on the wall. It's this really neat venue.
Yeah.
I've actually hosted a couple events in that venue. Remember, Hanson was a big supporter of the YWCA's Rose campaign with a special whiskey campaign that we had through the month of November. You remember that? And it was a wonderful venue. So, yeah, pop in 174th Street, 111th Avenue, just north of Mercedes-Benz Edmonton West. Or, of course, you can go online and shop at HansonDistillery.com.
Les is saying, yep, get drunk before the flamethrower. I like this idea.
Loosen me up a bit, Les.
Tawny said, do you think you could froth it up and have it in a cappuccino? I wonder.
Oh, Tony, I love where your head is at. I don't know if the liqueur itself would froth up, but if you mixed it, hey, did you guys know I was a Starbucks barista for a brief period of time?
Shut up.
I was.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah. I thought
Really?
I was pretty good at the job, actually. As a matter of fact, very much enjoyed it.
Before the bartending, before the media
This
career,
is
obviously,
before-
all that.
this
So
was-
what,
yeah.
like one of your first jobs?
It was exactly. I was only there for 5 months, but I used to really enjoy sort of the
You are a creative.
showmanship of it.
You are like you're a connoisseur, you're a foodie, you're a drinky, you're a guy, and you can also make it well. You're into that, right?
Yeah,
I would rather be served, but you're kind of that. You've been through that whole service side of it.
But I feel like I'm very
You're good at it.
I get really nerdy, you guys, about tiny little things in hospitality, like the perfectly poured pint, for example. Like the proper amount of head on a pint of beer, like
Yeah.
a really
I don't like when there's
really
none.
good
There has to be
bartender.
some, right?
Well, and some beers are different in how they're supposed to be poured, but when you really nail that, and it's the same thing like with a latte or a cappuccino or a macchiato, like if you do it properly,
The little things.
just the little things. And then I used to love calling up the name and just the whole, it's a job that when you're actually behind the barista station, like not at the till, but actually making the drinks, which I love, because there's a lot of banging things and whirring, and the burr grinders are going, and the smells and this
I love it.
steaming the milk, and I just used to love it.
I'm not going to say where I had it, but man, first of all, drinks are out of control. I think I had a $27 old fashioned the other night, but
dude.
It was smoked. It was made to perfection, and just the way the bartender made it in front of me, and gave me just a window into everything they were doing, and just the way they peeled off the orange and put the cherry in, and then had the smoke in there, and then he came up and said, "Hey, get your phone out because you're gonna want to," the whole thing from start to finish, and allowing me to get a video of it and everything. I was like, my wallet just opened up when that happened.
Yeah.
I love the little things all the way from start to finish, and then I'm like, I totally forgot that the drink was $27. You know what I mean? It was like I'm all in.
Yeah. And Bustion's wondering, where can you get Hanson Distillery's Minnie Yeggs cream liqueur in Calgary?
Oh.
That's a great question. I would say, number one, you should go to your favorite liquor store and ask for it. Ask them to bring it in. Or you can always go to HansonDistillery.com and just check in with them and ask. I'm sure they can either ship it or, and Bustion, maybe you need to bring yourself up to Edmonton, to the Metro Edmonton region.
It's not far.
For a weekend. Treat yourself. Tour Hanson, maybe some of the craft breweries. That could be a great way to spend a weekend.
Jillian said she just looked and the mint chocolate's on sale, so there you
It's
go.
on sale.
Yeah, grab
That's
that.
all we need. Okay.
Are you saying you're going to get... We just bought a case.
I see Les is wondering, is the bottle done yet? Not quite yet, Les, but I don't like this bottle's chances. I don't think this bottle is going to be here for long, to be quite honest with you. The good news is we will get our hands on more, and I will tell you this. I will reveal something. Our friends at Hanson have let us know. It's okay. I can do this with rock guitar beneath me. There's no problem there.
I jumped the gun.
Hey, is there we better be careful, because I think that, Real Talk, they can't talk like this on radio stations. I can talk like this now. Dairy Queen, the DQs of Northwest Edmonton and Sherwood Park cannot officially encourage you. They absolutely cannot officially encourage you to go get a Blizzard and then add some Minnie eggs cream liqueur. And our friends at Hanson can't officially encourage you to go to the DQs of Northwest Edmonton and Sherwood Park, because you never know where their partnerships are. But in Real Talk family life, when it all collides together with a big happy accident, Jesus, I think we might be onto something here. What about this from Fanny Pack Fletch, who has quickly become one of my favorite handles in our live chat? Says, methinks I shall try the Minnie Yeg cream liqueur in my favorite special brownies. That from Fanny Pack Fletch.
Ooh.
Now we're talking. We're talking. All right, let's do this, Real Talkers, as we wrap up every single week here on the show. Courtesy of our friends at the DQs of Northwest Edmonton and Sherwood Park, we focus in on your hottest takes. Yeah, that's right. These are real emails to talk@ryanjesperson.com. Sometimes YouTube comments, too. It's the Flamethrower, presented by the DQs of Northwest Edmonton and Sherwood Park. How about this one from Gary, who says, Jespo, I recently started listening to Real Talk, and I've really been enjoying the various discussions and the interviews that you have. Well, thanks, Gary, and welcome to the family. He says, my question for the week, is it just me, or has there been a rise in excrement-related words in the media these days when it comes to talking about Alberta politics or politics in general? He says, I noticed Gil McGowan on your show saying bullshit various times. Not to mention Raki Pancholi's cut the bullshit comments, as well as Nahid Nenshi saying BS on your show. He says that's not to mention the number of other times that other podcasts and their guests have mentioned other words as well. Gary, we would recommend not listening to any other podcasts except for Real Talk. He says, I did see the political cartoon on the Alberta Resistance newsletter as well. He says, I learned about Alberta Resistance from your show, Jespo. He says, anyway, have a super week. That from Gary, who's sick of the bullshit. All right, how about this one from Don, who says, Jespo, can you load me up that video, by the way? Don says, Jespo, please stop saying Secretary of War in the U.S. Department of War. He says, stop saying it. The change in names has not been confirmed by Congress. It is still the Department of Defense, and your use of Pete Hegseth's dick-measuring term is enabling and insulting. That from Don, who writes in from Parksville, BC. Don, if memory serves, I believe you have served your country. Am I right in remembering you served in the Canadian Navy? Don keeps us up to speed on what we need to know on matters of the military. Number one, Don, thank you for your service. Number two, don't shoot the messenger. Hegseth's the one that screwed the sign into the side of the wall, for Pete's sake. What about this one from Coreen, who says, Jespo, I just listened to your interview with Gil McGowan. If you missed it, that was on the 2nd of March. That was on Monday after we talked to Sabria. Your conversation with Johnny as well about the comments coming in. Coreen says, as a union member of only about 5 years in the education sector, I need to weigh in. I mean, so many of the people in the Real Talk live chat, their comments were bang on. I mean, Coreen, we know, right? Smartest live chat on the internet. She says, I also need to point out, unions are responsible for mat leaves, pat leaves, overtime pay, days off, paid vacation, extended benefits, pensions, employer contributions to RSPs, safety standards. She says, I could go on. Even if a person's not in a union, unions have fought for these things, and those not in unions have benefited because their employers needed to sweeten the pot to attract or maintain their staff. So if we think that unions have served their purpose and their time is up, we need to realize that if unions and the people in them fighting for workers were to disappear tomorrow, our rights to all of these things would also go the same way. They'd be gone, and we can't take them for granted. We see how this current government is working to undermine unions with this very goal in mind. She says, I want to give a huge shout out to education workers in Fort McMurray, in Edmonton, that took a stand and started strikes in fall of 24, spring of 25. She's talking about EAs that brought the rest of us in bargaining to a better place at the table with this government. We saw a wage increase, something we hadn't seen in 10 years. and we're working for poverty wages, says Coreen. Without union backing, this would not have happened. She says, Jespo, thank you in advance for letting my voice be heard. Coreen, thanks for taking the time.
Watch the Worker Agenda on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, there you go. Right wherever you get your podcasts, Real Talk, first Sunday of every month, Worker Agenda, something we're producing in partnership with the Alberta Federation of Labor. And then there's this from Sharon on the flip side, Johnny. After she heard Gil McGowan on the show on the 2nd of March, she says, I got real issues with Gil McGowan talking about anything at all, especially since Rachel Notley's NDP days when he was being paid as a labor leader and a consultant to that party, going out about the small coal mining towns, telling workers that coal mining was done and they should look for different jobs. Any information was in brochures at the back of the room. Talk about double dipping and slamming blue-collar workers, Sharon says. Go away, Gil. And this one from Minnie, who says, Jespo, Johnny, I lucked into, what a kind thing to say to us, says Minnie, I lucked into the Real Talk podcast several years ago. It's now part of my everyday, she says. And then I want to thank you for hosting the guests you have on, and I love the discussions and opinion sharing. She says, I learned something from every episode. Minnie, we love you already. She says, on March 3rd, very at the end of your show, you asked for, opinions on the controversial matter of doctors' income, right? We had a note from Real Talker Laura who was saying physicians are getting big pay increases, nurses and teachers aren't. What gives? And then we heard from a doctor in Calgary. We heard from a doctor in Edmonton. It's been a continuing conversation. She says Doctors Charles and Andrews, the two doctors that wrote in. She says, here's another thought on the matter. Minnie says, my late husband graduated from medical school in 1975. His cohort is now long retired. My dad was a 74, Minnie. She says, we didn't talk income often. We both knew we had a good life. Income, all things considered. But one remark that my husband made does stick in my mind. At some point in his career, early 1990s, practicing doctors were required by government to do ever-increasing record keeping, to submit more paperwork. It was unpaid work, right? Like off-hours work. And it took time out of either patient care or time out of his own after-hours downtime, making already long working days longer. She said he was averaging 60-hour work weeks. Or, of course, you could always hire additional staff to do some of the work, and then that would come the cost out of the pockets of the docs. She says, I can't imagine that over the years this trend of actually asking physicians to do more without compensating them has reversed. And I've heard more recently that doctors in solo or small practices, in particular in small communities, carrying all the burdens of a small business, have had a real difficulty making a financial go of it. Minnie says life on the other side of the exam table is almost always not what it seems to the casual observer. It's all well and good to go and look at the possessions that doctors can acquire with what they earn over 60 or 70 or 80-hour work weeks. But, the things, she says, poor compensation, all things considered, for missing so many of the other things that matter to mental health and to relationships with children, family, and friends. She says, cheers to my fellow Real Talkers. Keep up the great work. That from Minnie, who brings us home in another episode of The Flamethrower, proudly presented by the DQs in Palisades, Nemeo, Newcastle, Westmount, and Baseline Road. When you pop into the drive-thru or in-store to pick up a Flamethrower signature stack burger, a Score Blizzard, and then, do what you want with it from there. Mini eggs. You let them know that Real Talk sent you. We'll be back at it Monday with another episode. In the meantime, be good to one another and one love. Happy International Women's Day.
Real Talk is hosted by Ryan Jesperson, executive producer Josh Dunford, technical producer John Hicks, general manager Katie Cook-Chivers, account coordinator Lawrence Derlego, human resources Lena Shepard, website design Mike Johnston, voiceover by me, Carrie Skelton.